Jack. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here with all of you. And I want to make one thing very plain. I do not work at the White House. I don't have the ear of the president, but I have the ear of those who do have the ear of the president. So it's like, my thoughts, my views, my ideas do somehow get in there, which is really important. And I also am a very, very close friend to Dr. Alveda King, who also has the ear of the president. So we get in there, and we do the best we can. I am the president of the National Black Pro-Life Union, and also I'm a member of the National Diversity Coalition for Trump. I'm the pro-life advisor for that organization. And I want to say, first of all, if you think about, I want to tell you a little bit about when I decided to back this president, or back candidate Trump. I made the decision to endorse Trump, fully endorse him for president back in 2016, April 2016. And I was talking to you, Sharon, about the fact that that was not a very, let's just say that there are a lot of people who weren't very crazy about that. I got calls from, I used to work at National Right to Life, so I got calls from them. I got calls from, worked with a lot of think tanks and a lot of pro-life people and conservatives from all over who were very, very, had their, all of their, everything behind Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and those people who are also very good people and may have been very good candidates. But for some reason in prayer, we all pray and God answers and moves us in different directions. We don't know why, and we're not meant to know. He has the big picture, we don't. So anyway, I decided to endorse Trump for president. I had family members who kind of decided they didn't want to be my family member anymore, but they couldn't help it. So what? And also a lot of friends, pro-life people who I love with all my heart, conservatives, Christians, love with all my heart, who immediately blocked me on Facebook and Twitter and unfriended me. I got, you wouldn't believe, I get probably 200 to 300 email a day normally. Well, during the time I endorsed Trump, it was like, I would say almost doubled, with people saying, how could you, what are you doing, and all kinds of things. And I thought, these are people who love me, come on, you guys. Well, anyway, Trump won. We see that he was and is the right candidate. And to make a long story short, they all love me again. So, so anyway, that's a good thing. And we do work. I don't know if I got everybody, following me again. I think they think, well, let's just, we love her, but let's just hold back on this woman. We don't know what she's going to do next. But anyway, the good news is that candidate Trump promised a lot, made a lot of promises. And, we sat back there, and of course you have people saying, well, he's so brash, and he's so, the things he says are so far up. I'm thinking, you know what? I can't be worried about that stuff. And the reason I can't be worried about it because I'm a born-again Christian, and I know that King David was not the best person, who had had Bathsheba's husband put to the front lines of in the army so that he could be killed, so that he could carry on this affair with Bathsheba. We all know that Saul, who became Paul, was a killer of Christians. I'm sure a lot of people were very leery of him. We know that Rahab, who was in the line of Jesus Christ, but the thing is she was a prostitute. So I'm not putting Trump in line with any of those biblical people, although maybe God has. I have no idea. It's not my business. It's not for me to know. But what I do know is that for some reason, he seemed that he was the person that I was led to endorse, and that I was led to believe that for some reason, he's the person for this particular time. I have no idea why. We don't need to know. It's not our business. God knows what he's doing. He doesn't need our help. So the thing is that he promised, or he made big campaign promises with regard to taxes, the border wall, jobs, Supreme Court justices, and Gorsuch. We have another one on the way, and maybe if we make sure that he stays in office, there may be another 1 or 2, maybe 3 down the road. So, let's really stay in prayer with regard for our president and our country.
Religious freedom, too. Religious freedom.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So there's so many things that he's doing. By the way, also, and I have my little notes here I want to say on because I know I'm going to watch my time, but the Senate has confirmed 44 judges. So Trump is really moving really big with regard to judges in the lower courts. There is, let's see here, 23 judges for the United States Court of Appeals, 20 judges for the United States District Courts. We know that with regard to the Ninth Court, he's going to be blocked, and they're going to make that very, very difficult because the Ninth Court is so powerful. Now, a few years ago, filmmaker Michael Moore tweeted about, and I hope you'll bear with me, there's a method to my madness. I'm going to mention some facts about different places. Flint, Michigan voted for Democrats for 84 straight years. Flint, Michigan, if any of you have been there, I have not, but I do know people from Flint, Michigan, which is a very impoverished city. It is, of course, as I said, run by Democrats.
Most impoverished cities are.
What's that?
The most impoverished cities are.
Yeah. Now keep in mind, Flint, Michigan once boasted more than 80,000 GM manufacturing jobs alone. 80,000.
Wow.
In 1978, they saw that figure plummet to fewer than 8,000 jobs.
Wow.
Now, I'm sorry, in 2010, fewer than 8,000 jobs. Now, 40% of Flint residents live at below or at the poverty level. Detroit, Michigan, once home to an abundance of high-paying manufacturing jobs, in the wake of a major upheaval in the auto industry, the city has seen mass exodus. So more than 38% of its residents live at below the federal poverty line. Detroit last elected a Republican mayor in 1957. I was like 2 years old. Today it's recognized for its poverty, its crime, bankruptcy, the same as Flint, Michigan as well. Detroit is the #1 most impoverished city in the United States. Flint, Michigan is #2.
Wow.
If we think of Chicago, the last GOP mayor was elected in 1927. You know, I'm looking at these things, I'm thinking, I heard someone tell me, it said, well, you know what, these are Democratic-run cities, all these areas, a lot of urban areas very heavily populated by black, minority people. And I thought, I heard someone said, actually Trump has said, you know, for more than 50 years, he throws that out there. And I thought, really? So I thought, well, let me just look at some of the numbers, and you start looking at some of these cities, and they are very, very, very heavily run by Democrats. A lot of crime, a lot of, there are several mayors who have been kind of sent up the river for so much corruption. But the last GOP mayor was 1927. We hear about on a daily basis all the crime and everything that goes on in Chicago, on a daily basis. St. Louis has been electing Democrat mayors since 1949. Now the gateway to the west has become a gateway for crime. They also have a very high crime rate. It's the 4th most dangerous city in the country. I didn't realize that. And Forbes magazine says it's the 2nd most dangerous.
Are we first?
Well, you're up there. We're up there. It also had, St. Louis has had the highest poverty rate among big cities in 2014. The last GOP mayor of Philadelphia was 1952. I mean, I'm looking at this and thinking, are you kidding me? The city of brotherly love. And you wonder, you see these wonderful places that I remember going when I was a child with my parents. Today I wouldn't set foot in. Some of the areas I just wouldn't set foot in. Some of the places where I had family members living, some of them still live there. I would not set foot in those places because they're not safe. They're just not safe. Newark, New Jersey has had a GOP mayor in, hasn't had a GOP mayor in more than a century. It's more than 100 years. If any of you know anything about Newark, again, you know, it's like, it's one of those places that's not really fun to go, you know. Let's see, it's been ranked as the 5th worst city to live in. Detroit, like I said, of course, is the 1st. Now, these are just a few of America's cities that are in a horrible state right now. And you mentioned Baltimore. It's not horrible. I mean, Baltimore, You know, I mean, over the past, I would say even 10 years, I've seen such a big difference in this city. I remember when I first moved to Maryland back in 1999, I remember going to Baltimore Harbor and feeling really good. You know, just kind of walking around, said you feel really wonderful. A lot of the areas that now I would be very leery of taking my grandson or my family. You just don't feel very comfortable, especially after certain hours. I grew up in the about 20 miles from Atlantic City. Atlantic City has seen a lot of, you know, it's like everyone says, well, you know, the casinos and everything. With the casinos and that type of thing comes a lot of crime also. I remember, and this sounds really crazy, but I remember being really excited, maybe around, I think it was about maybe 19, 20 years old, somewhere around there, thinking, wow, there's a prostitute, because, you know, I hadn't seen one before, ever. I mean, or at least they weren't coming out of the woodwork during the daytime. But the things you start to see these people in the daytime, I thought, I think that's a prostitute. And my mother said, like, roll up the window and lock the door, you know, and stop. But the thing is that, what I'm saying is that we've seen our cities in decline. We see things falling apart. Unfortunately, you know, we don't like to say, you know, you'd like to think that this has nothing to do with parties, but then we have to look at the truth. The truth of it, it does have to do with parties. I'm not saying everybody should be Republican here. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about being pro-people, pro-America, pro-life. I don't really, it's not about the whole party thing. I don't think we should really get into that as much as saying those cities with those leaders who happen to be Democrats. I mean, I think it's a sad thing that they don't seem to see the disrepair themselves and don't want better for themselves. And I think with this president, I said all of that to say, and of course we should add also, in all of those cities that I mentioned, and just about all other cities, major cities in the United States that have heavy minority heavy minority communities especially, are also extremely high in abortion. So the thing is that we know that Planned Parenthood, 80% of Planned Parenthood facilities are located in those really hard-hit areas that are also impoverished areas. And I think that's a travesty. It's a very sad thing. And no matter how much you talk to these people, it seems like there's not anything you can do to wake them up. What I love about what's happening right now is because I think the most important thing is that when Trump was running, I didn't think of him as a Republican. I think that's why he had so many Republicans against him, and not a Democrat. Of course, we know that. I think he was just kind of Trump. You know, it's like I couldn't put him in a basket. You know, I thought, well, where does he belong? I didn't know, because so many Republicans also hated this man, and still do. I mean, he still has a lot of problems. But the thing is that I think that if you think about everything that I just said, and you think about what we do, the wonderful work that Jack does and that Defend Life does, and a lot of the pro-life organizations across the country do phenomenal things. Very hardworking people like you guys. You know, we get out there and you get beat up and pushed and shoved around and everything, and you get up and you go out the next day, right? Dust yourself off, you get out and do it again. You know, the number one reason for abortion, what is it?
Convenience.
It's convenience, but the number one reason is finances. People say, well, you know, I can't afford another child. You know, my boyfriend doesn't want this baby. I mean, they go into this whole litany of reasons why it's necessary to abort this baby. They don't want the responsibility. And I think I have some numbers here. 21% say it's inadequate finances. 21% say they're not ready for responsibility. 16% women's life would be changed too much. Some women say, you know what, I'm working, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm having fun, or I'm young, I want to go to parties or whatever. It's going to change my life too much. 12% say the problems with relationships, or they're unmarried. 11% say they're too young and too immature. 8% children are grown and, you know, I have enough children, I really don't need another one. You know, my youngest is 15, I don't want another child, that type of thing. The baby has health problems. We know what the problems with Down syndrome and any of those health problems that people think are so, you know, it's just going to be too much for me to deal with, so let's just like snuff this baby's life out now. You know, let's kill him now. The pregnancy caused by rape or incest. And, you know, whenever I hear that, I think, well, you know, first of all, rape and incest, it doesn't matter, it's still a baby.
Right.
I can't get past the fact that a rapist or someone who has committed incest may get a couple years in jail, but the baby gets the death penalty. You know, we can't get, how do you get by that? You know, it doesn't make any sense. And I think there's 4% other, there's a whole bunch of other, you know, some other reasons people come up with, and I come up with just about any reason to go ahead and kill children. But what I love about what I was just mentioning, the whole thing with this administration, I think the most important thing is to say that they understand it, they get it, they understand why America, you know, when you hear the Make America Great Again thing, and you have a lot of people saying, I remember there were some African Americans, a couple of family members said, what, Make America Great Again, like back in slavery? I thought, oh, how stupid. Of course that's not what he's saying. You know, sometimes you just have to come out and say it. And I have to tell you, I was talking to Sharon over there about PC. I am 63. I don't have time to be politically correct. I'm sorry, I'm kind of on the downside, you know, and I just don't have time. And if people don't like, if they don't like, whether it's family members, friends, if they don't like what I have to say, then, you know, just delete me, you know, block me, tweet me, whatever you have to do. Because it's gotten to a point where we get so, I don't care if you like me. I love all of you guys here, but you know, if I walk out of here and something's like, that woman's crazy, I'm sorry, I love you, but that's your prerogative, don't like me. I have family members who have disowned me, whether they like it or not. They're my family, you know, and they can't disown me because they just can't. They can try, but they can't. So I'm just saying that at this particular time, we have to be honest, we have to stick in there, we have to do what is right in spite of everyone else or whatever everyone else tells you to do. What I like about this administration, what I was getting ready to say, is that being a member of the National Diversity Coalition for Trump, which I am, and I was one of the original members, I've been invited to the White House quite often, and that's what Jack's referring to. And a few months ago, I was attended a meeting, and in this meeting, what was being discussed, Pastor Darrell Scott, who you may see on television a lot, is a dear friend of mine as well, and he's also a very good friend of the president's. Like I said, I have ears of people who have the president's ear. I have, you know, those are the people that I know, so I don't have any direct line other than through those people. But even though I've been in the president's company, but he's Pastor Darrell Scott is a very close friend of the president. He and others have been working on a robust plan to revitalize America's urban communities. Now, why is this important? It's because of all the things I just mentioned. The fact that if we really want to end abortion, if we really want to get through those people, we have to take away those reasons that they think it's okay to kill these children, you know? If they're saying, well, you know what, I can't afford a child, then you know what, they need jobs. The president understands that. You know, I don't have child care. Well, you know what? They need child care. The president understands that, and I know that Ivanka Trump is working on a lot of those things. The thing is that as far as education, finishing their education, some of these, a lot of the women or young girls are still in school when they find that they're pregnant. There have to be answers for this, and the president does understand that there are a lot of things that have to happen to make America great again, which as far as I'm concerned, is taking it back to before abortion was a thing that everybody does, and it's so acceptable now, and it's just such a horror. So we want families to welcome new additions. We want to work with and help single moms. And I think, and I know for a fact that that's also what the president is, that's what his focus is. So I think one of the things that you probably don't know and won't hear much of, and one of the things I mentioned to Jack, that I had some things I think that are very important for you to know, is that the National Diversity Coalition, Pastor Darrell Scott, they're going to be, they're working on this robust plan, this initiative now, and it will be, as soon as it's together, they will be visiting 17 key cities. And this will be to revitalize those areas that are having a lot of difficulty with high crime, unemployment, single parents, children, education, because a lot of the schools also in these areas are very bad. And it's an upheaval. What I love about this plan is the fact that no other president has done this. You know, we've seen for years, administrations come in, administrations go out, putting Band-Aids on things and saying, you know, if I hear one more, you know, president say, well, we're overturning the Mexico City policy, and they think that that's it, that's good, we did our good deed for the pro-lifers. That's gone for another, you know, 40 years or 45 years with abortion on the table. We can't do that. We don't want to do that anymore. We're saying, let's fix the ills. Let's fix those things that are wrong. From the bottom up, let's fix those things so that abortion becomes something that is unheard of. It's unnecessary and unheard of. And there are many people who say, well, that can't be done. But you know what? They said that about slavery. Slavery was you know, hundreds of years of slavery. And then it changed. We can change hearts, we can change minds, but it starts with understanding the importance of every single person getting out there. It's not about voting Republican as much as it's getting out and saying, I'm going to vote for people who will make sure that they have pro-life judges in place. I'm going to make sure that there are, you have to really think about from the ground up, not just the president. It has to start with those lower offices, the people who are there in your communities. This is not a time to be quiet and walk away and say, you know what, it's a midterm election, I'm not going to pay much attention to it. This is the time we got to fight. We have a president who will sign just about any pro-life legislation put on his desk. We needed to get through House, we needed to get through Senate. A lot of these things with the abortion will probably be turned back to the states. If it's turned back to the states, you know what that means. Then you need to have people in those states who are going to do what needs to be done with regard to saving the lives of children. So my point is today is that it's important for everyone to, as much as you're involved, and I know that you're doing as much as you can, you think pro-life all the time, but Alveda King, like I said, who's a very good friend of mine, I think it's really interesting. Just a second, I have to see what I'm talking about. Alveda King told me, you know, we were sitting on the phone, and she was feeling a little bit tired. Me too. I'm thinking, gosh, okay, here we go. It's another year. Let's do this again. You know, and you know, you can kind of think it gets kind of mundane, and sometimes you feel like you have to kind of take a step away from it and all come back fresh. But we were talking on the phone, and she said, well, you know, we'll do this again. We'll do that. You know, we're doing the things we do every year. And then she said, you know what? She said, I think it's time that we diversify. And I said, what do you mean? Because our focus has always been lasered into saving those babies, like yours is, really laser focused. And she said, you know what? We have to realize that it's more than that. It's about, first of all, leading people to Christ. It's so that they understand what a child is. It's about making sure that, of course, that information is out there with regard to the modern technology and the ultrasounds and everything, so they know the truth out there. That's all important. That's what we do already. That's all important. But she said it's more than that. She said it's about, for her, it means that she works an awful lot more in her ministry, on the ministry side, and pro-life, so she's kind of doing a little bit of that type of thing. She's doing, right now she's working on a movie. I mean, she's kind of spread it out a little bit and to include more things in order to reach more people with the message of life. And for me, I'm doing the same thing. I was laser focused on babies and everything pro-life, and then I thought, you know what? This is political as well. I mean, that's what it is. So when I supported Trump was to say that it can't be just about, you know, I want to be focused on the baby. I can't think about who's in office. You know, I have to, right after the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court and the president, that's about it. It's more than that. I mean, we have to really get down and do what the other side does and has been doing so well in those cities and all those places, keeping people down. We have to be willing to lift those people up. And it starts with changing things from the ground up. The president understands that. It's necessary for all of us to understand that, to make sure that every single election, it's important to know who's running and where they stand, and to get in. And if people are not if they don't represent our values or your values, family values, they need to be gone. It means that more people may have to run for office, and I've run for office a few times. It's horrible. It's the worst thing. But I did it because I thought I need to get all I want is a podium, you know, so I didn't expect to win, but I thought I can talk. I'm going to talk. So it's important to get the message out there. And the thing is, there are a lot of people that feel the way that you do. There are a lot of people that feel the way that I do, but they're silenced. They're taught to be too quiet, and everyone doesn't want to, you don't want to stir things up. The other side has no problem stirring things up. You hear about it all the time.
Yes.
It can be one or two people, somebody who parades around in a red dress. You know, that's what I heard. You know, with the sign, one woman disrupting. But you know, if like with us, we feel there's safety, of course, in numbers. You know, you wouldn't find one of us going out there. It's very rare. But they have no problem, one or two people getting out there disrupting things to show their little crazy points of view. And she really did look crazier than all of you, I'm sure. What a nut. But what I'm saying is that we have to be willing to put ourselves on the line. And sometimes it means that you're going to lose friends. You're going to have family members who are going to block you and decide that they don't want to, you know, be friends with you either. It means not getting invited to things. You know, I went through, there was a period of time that was really kind of strange because it was kind of quiet. The only people I heard from was the Trump people saying, okay, where do you want to go next? And I was sort of stumping for Trump, which was fine. So I think that we have to be willing to know, and we know that how it was, I mean, Jesus stood alone, you know? So, and we want to be like him. I mean, so we have to be willing to kind of stand alone, to raise our voices and know that the world may not love us, but but God will. And we're doing the best thing for our country. So I ask you to please keep our president in prayer, keep our country in prayer. And I just know that if we do what we do, what we know how to do, and if we just let go of the political correctness, say what you mean, you know, and mean what you say. And I think that the most important thing for all of us is to really get out to not only the polls this midterm, but to actually get involved, know who is running, know where they stand, and if they're not for us, then you know they need to be gone. And it also means that some of you may just have to run for office, whether you like it or not. Thank you so much.
Anyone have questions?
Any comments?
I know I do. More comments.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm more and more inclined to say that the party does matter. It matters tremendously. We have a senator in Pennsylvania, and it's a good case in point, a good model to look at. Senator Casey, his father, I switched parties from Republican to Democrat purposely to vote for Governor Casey, hit this man's father, because he was the Casey versus Planned Parenthood, of course, and pushed this whole thing through. Very, very pro-life, wonderful man. That was those days. Now we're in a situation where the son claims to be pro-life, but he goes constantly on the pro-death side. And some exceptions, but very few. This is what the party does to you. So I'm really getting tired of, I used to take a position as a clergy person to be very careful and balanced in this whole thing there. And I'm not going to go screaming from the pulpit to vote Republican. I'm not going to do that. But I'm also not going to take back off at the opportunity to point out what the different parties have. And I'm sorry I didn't bring it along today. We have at Priestful Life a comparison of the platforms. And that comparison of the platforms tells you a lot. You might find Republicans, you do find Republicans who are chickening out. You have the two gals from Alaska and Maine who are pro-abortion Republicans. You know, you have that. But the party itself, okay, it's like the Quran. You know, you have nice Muslims who are really living in this country. But the Quran says something, and if you have to serve a hornet's nest, you got a problem with that. So the actual billing of the thing is in those platforms. And you see the difference of the parties and the platforms. And I tell you, this is a wonderful platform. This time is better than ever, the Republican platform. And to say the least that the Democrat is worse than ever. I mean, they booed God out in the 2012 convention, and now it's worshiping at the Temple of Sodomy.
Right.
So, you know, the party makes a huge difference. I'm gonna say the Republican Party is gonna be the agent to do that, and as I think it was, no, right here,
Ellen Tarver.
Alan, right, talking about that, what you're saying about the Republican Party, that they would be.
Make pro-life the highest political priority.
Pro-life the highest political.
Yeah.
We gotta get out there. What is running the Democratic Party? Abortion at all costs.
Right, that's
Yeah.
their main thing.
That's it. Everything else, including immigration. Because the immigration is there only to get votes.
Gay marriage too.
So Father, one thing
Yeah.
we should say also is that when you're in a lot of those impoverished areas and cities, they're Democrats, mostly blacks, a lot of Hispanics are Democrat. So the thing is that if you come out and say, be a Republican, they're not listening to you. So
But they are
most-
now, and
yeah.
little by little, and you look on Fox
It
News,
is
and you
getting
see
better.
these wonderful, wonderful black leaders who are out there and
Yeah.
are saying it like this. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's getting
But
better.
Almeda King has said this, and you probably heard her say it too. She says, I don't know how many places, cities I've been to in this country that have abortion centers on streets named after my uncle.
Yeah.
Not because he wanted
Right.
it, but because they know where the target is.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, but I think the most important thing that is if you are in any of those impoverished cities and you do say, try to get people to switch to Republican, they're not gonna do that and they're not gonna listen to you. So the most important is say, you know, I don't really care that you're a Democrat. I have family members who are Democrats, I couldn't care less. I don't care if you're a Democrat. The most important thing, my mother originally was a Democrat, she changed last because she wanted to vote for Trump. So she switched parties. But the thing is, I think that most important thing is to say, are these the things that you care about? It's not about whether, you don't vote the party line, because there are a lot of Republicans who are not, as far as I'm concerned, are not really where we went. I mean, you just mentioned a couple of them. So the most important thing to say, these are the things that we believe in. These are the things, the family values, these are the things that we want. We do want jobs, we want lower taxes. Blacks want those things too. Hispanics want those things too. And that's why, you know, Trump is touting his numbers with Hispanics and blacks and how the unemployment rate. These are things that make sense. And there are a lot of blacks that I do know who will not come out and say that they support Trump. And they'll say that they're Democrats, but they support Trump. I'm saying, I don't care, don't change your party, it's not about that. Just support the things that you believe in. And that's what is really important, especially in those impoverished areas, because some of them are not going to come out and they're not going to openly support Trump. Not right now. They're not going to do that.
We're all cowards, is how I feel about the situation with what we're allowing to happen to children, and it's easy to picture that if you picture them taking one-day-olds to abortion clinics, what we would obviously be doing and how we'd be acting. I love Donald Trump. I think he's wonderful. I support Governor Huckabee. Are you familiar with what he said about the 5th and 14th Amendments?
No.
He said if he were elected into office, he would invoke the 5th and 14th Amendments on behalf of the children. One, you can't be deprived of life or liberty without due process of law, and we've left these children up to the individual process of one woman, and the 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law. Is this technically possible to do, and why hasn't Mr. Trump done it?
Supreme Court.
Like,
We don't have 5.
well, I mean, Emancipation Proclamation, he just did it, you know?
I think that'd be difficult to do. I'm not really sure how he would go about doing that. I mean, it seems like it should be easy, but it's just for some.
I mean, it's.
Yeah.
You have a Supreme Court precedent, so, which we can overthrow, but we don't have 5 people.
Democracy only
Yeah.
works with
But I mean, we have the constitutional precedent to protect the children. Like, we are not upholding the Constitution for these children in the same way we weren't upholding the Constitution for black people.
Well, you have to keep in mind that look how they turned the Constitution to include, like, well, constitutionally, we should be allowed to have abortions, a woman's body, you know. I mean, it's like, really, they kind of have made, our Constitution has become, to the left, has become a joke.
Roe versus Wade states though that until the personhood, basically, I'm paraphrasing, Until the personhood of the child can be established, it can be done.
That's what they're
It's
gonna
been
do.
And our effort should be to prove the personhood of the child.
Yeah.
It's been
Not
established by
legally,
local universities.
we proved it scientifically, but we gotta
Yeah.
prove it legally.
But the point is,
Right.
if you don't get the Supreme Court, no matter
I-
what law you
I
pass,
totally agree.
right, so,
The Supreme Court can't make law. Roe v. Wade is not the supreme law of the land,
Well,
neither
they
is
have to do it.
Oberfeld.
But if we get
they
scientific
overthrew
proof
all
and
the
push
state
it.
law, whether we like it or not, that's what it did.
Yeah.
So until we
They
get,
didn't have the authority to do that, that ruling, it only applies to the ruling of that case, it's unconstitutional.
And that's why we need to
Congress
take
makes
control of the
laws.
court and reverse
The
it.
Supreme Court cannot make law. If